Roman Losowski.
I'm Chieko.
Bayan,
Hugo Menendez.
Hello everybody, and welcome to our presentation on confidentiality and the use of social media in conference interpreting. Since we live in a digitalized world which is changing at a very rapid pace, there are relatively new inventions such as social media that is probably used by the majority of people in the developed world now. We thought that it is important to focus on social media because on the MA Conference Interpreting course we studied a module on the professional environment of the interpreter, and we were taught that social media is a tool that we could use in order to promote ourselves, to get us visibility online and to get ourselves out there. This online visibility would allow junior interpreters like us to find new clients, attract attention from fellow interpreters, and what we were taught is that we are ought to post interesting content that would attract good attention and create a positive but also professional image of us. But there is a big but, and we realized that social media can not only make you as an interpreter but also break you. Incorrect use of social media may put an interpreter at a risk by damaging their reputation, it could cause a loss of clients, and it could create a loss of their professional credibility. This is particularly damaging for interpreters like us who could be considered junior interpreters, since we're looking for new clients, new leads, and we were told that the interpreting world is a small world. Therefore, small slip-ups may cause unwanted consequences. This aspect of social media that our group decided to focus on is whether it is possible to use social media and still maintain confidentiality in interpreting. Our group believes that the use of social media and breaches of confidentiality are currently an issue that should be addressed in the profession. And in our presentation we focused on conference interpreting, and we focused on the simultaneous mode, since we thought it would be most relevant to us as aspiring conference interpreters. We also decided then to conduct research on a topic that would benefit us and hopefully create some awareness in the profession as a whole. We would like to now show you a short video of a conference interpreter doing something that we thought may be slightly problematic in relation to confidentiality, and this example then acted as inspiration for the development of this topic.
That will help us verify all documents, the entire package of documents for the agreement. So we ratified some agreements, and there was one more protocol from Armenia.
So, in order to answer the question, we tried to find out if there are relevant recommendations on the use of social media, and whether there are some clauses in the Code of Conduct, some guidelines and recommendations online, and whether the current information is actually up to date with the speed of technological advancements that we are facing in the 21st century. This part will be presented to you by Chieko. We also carried out the survey. Analysis of the survey will be presented to you by Bayan. Then myself and Hugo will look at some of the limitations, and I will leave Hugo to provide you with suggestions on how this issue could be tackled. Therefore, without further ado, I pass over the voice to Chieko.
Thank you. Thank you, Roman. So for our research, we first looked at the codes of conduct of the professional organizations, but unfortunately we didn't find any direct references to the social media. However, we extracted some relevant passages from the code of conduct. Here are the AIC and YAPTI ones, the two international professional organizations. And AIC says, as you can see, that we have to be bound by the strictest secrecy at any gathering not open to the public. And the FT also said, requires this confidentiality of any information received from the clients. And then we also looked at ITI and CO, the two UK-based organizations, and they also requires us the confidentiality of the information, but again, no specific guidelines as such in terms of the use of social media. So we all know that confidentiality is very important, one of the three pillars of the ethics we required for us, along with the integrity and collegiality. But how can we abide by the confidentiality requirement and still use the social media, because they are two opposite things. Confidentiality means keep something a secret, but social media is essentially all about communication, communicating with others, sharing the ideas, and spreading the word. So these code of conduct, as they are now, didn't quite give us the specific guidelines, so we looked further afield, and we found some articles on the AIC website. These are written by the AIC individual members, but approved and published on the AIC website. I'm going to go through very quickly what they say, but the full printout is in your pack if you want to reference them later. And the first one is written by Benno about AIC and ethics. This one was actually written before the use of social media became common, but we found it useful because it talks in length what confidentiality means. And then in 2012, Heads of Interpreting Services published the Declaration of the Use of Social Media. It doesn't give us any guidelines, but it essentially calls for the attention to this use of new social media tools. It was when it was coming out. And then it called for the organizations to include explicit references on the proper use of social media. So that's the first time the term social media came up in this context, I believe. Then Benoit came back and wrote another paper on the professional secrecy. He further clarified the terms on the confidentiality clause, terms used in the confidentiality clause in AIC code. And then in 2013, this is more concrete, a group of AIC members, including Angel Hill, I believe she is the current president of AIC, came up with this paper called A Few Thoughts on the Use of Social Media by Interpreters. And this was very interesting because for the first time it specifically dealt with the social media and in a very positive way. And it came up with some concrete suggestions of do's and don'ts, including to separate your private and public account, not to include particular names or photos without consent. And it concluded the paper saying, do use social media to promote yourselves, promote the profession of interpreting, but do so with caution and think about it. And the exact words they used is that, do use your common sense, which was helpful in a way, but not very helpful. And Angela also came up with another paper earlier this month, actually while we were researching, and this last paper, Social Media, Some Suggested Guidelines. This was essentially the summary of the earlier paper, just reminding us what to do, what not to do. So these are the papers we found, and none of them give us specific guidelines as such, but the gist we got from these papers is that we are encouraged to use social media, but we have to think carefully before we post anything and exercise common sense. This approach seems to be shared by some of the interpreters that we've approached. We talked to UN Arabic interpreter, one of the tutors here, and also a member of the ITI's Professional Code of Conduct Committee, and also person who wrote an article on the ERA London Regional Group of ITI, which had the workshop on the code of conduct. And they all shared the similar approach, saying that there is no explicit guidelines, but use it with caution. And interesting enough, we noticed the ITI conference this year, which happened this past weekend, had a dedicated session on the risks in using social media. And also CO is running a workshop called Ethical Dilemmas for Interpreters in the Digital World. So maybe the organizations are now paying more attention on this topic, and there are more discussions, direct discussions on this social media and confidentialities are going on. So maybe in the future we might see clearer guidelines. So that we'll wait and see. And next, Bayan's going to present to you the result of these surveys being carried out.
Okay, thank you, Chieko. So we've carried out a survey asking different questions, examples of case studies, and the survey was amazingly participated by 101 participants until yesterday. And there, 65% of them were professional interpreters, 25% were student interpreters. As you can see, the percentage of students is less than we wanted, and 10% were for translators and linguists. We gathered the sample from interpreters or students from London Metropolitan University, mainly MACI, teachers, tutors, and ambassadors, University of Westminster students, UCL, DPSI forums, Interpret Bank, groups, Facebook groups, Libyan interpreters, Japanese interpreters. We used different platforms. We used Facebook, Google+, emails, WhatsApp, and Twitter. We had 13 retweets requesting other interpreters to participate. We used SurveyMonkey as a survey platform, and then we started to collect the data. So the age groups were between 20 and 30, 29%, 30 and 40, 29%, 40 and 50, 29%. It was an equal distribution. And then above 50 years, there were 13%. 93% of them used social media. Among them, 40% used Twitter, 75% used Facebook, and 20% used Instagram. We asked them, how often do you update your status? Nearly half of them said once or twice a month, which is considered to be rarely. And nearly 15% said once or more per day. We said, do you have different accounts, professional and personal or private? Nearly 40% said yes, they do have different accounts. We said, we asked them, do you self-censor your own posts? Are you aware of the type of information you post? 96% said yes, they do. They self-censor their own posts. And then we started to go into case studies. We said, okay, you have secured an international conference dream job in a pharmaceutical field company. Would you tell your family and friends? 63% said yes. Okay, in the morning of the event, would you check in on Facebook? I am at the conference. 12% said yes. And then we said, okay, during the break, would you tweet about this medical conference? 20% said yes. And among these 20%, 30% said we would hashtag OneIt, we would hashtag 25% hashtag conference interpreter, 20% hashtag medical conference, and 10% hashtag Pfizer or hashtag Turk Life. And then 40% said we don't use hashtags. 10% of the participants said it depends whether it's public or private. Then we said, okay, you're in the booth, the documents are showing, the information of the conference is showing, the heads and faces of the delegates are showing, would you take a selfie? And if you do, what would you do with it? 50% said no, they don't take a selfie. 50% said yes, they do. 30% of them keep it in their phones, 20% share it with family and friends, 7% share it with their colleagues on WhatsApp and iMessage, and 8% on social media to see how many likes they have. And then we said, okay, while at the conference, which social media posts do you think are acceptable? 25% of them said it's acceptable to say 5 hours in the booth, I'm totally exhausted. 13% said, I used to think finance was quite boring, but actually once you get going, it's not too bad, it's acceptable. 7% said, this meeting is rather tricky, is acceptable. But 55% said, no, none of them is acceptable. Then we said, okay, you finished your work, would you post how hard that work was? 16% said yes. Among them, 50% of them said we post hashtags about how we love our work in general, using different hashtags, and 50% used other human responses, praising their colleagues, etc. Examples. One said, yet another attempt from the medical industrial complex to suppress the cure for cancer. Direct message me for more details. I think that was Hugo, hopefully. And one said, great to see wonderful colleagues after the conference. One was opposing, saying, I certainly wouldn't want my doctor to be doing so. And one said, I would keep posting and sharing cute animals and the wisdom of Dalai Lama. So, in general, it was okay. And then we said, okay, as members of the CIOL, would you tweet about going to a CPD the next day? Half of them said yes. Would you add an @ to include other members from the CIOL you know are going to the CPD in your tweet? 25% said yes. Okay, while in the event is commenting on a previous interpreted event during a CPD tweet a breach of confidentiality? 24% said no, which is wondering. And then we had different responses from participants. By the end of the survey, we had it in open, please leave us your responses, which were very interesting. One of them said, social media can be a great tool, especially to create sense of community and to keep in touch with colleagues and everything that is happening in the domain. However, especially in the modern world, data protection and confidentiality should always be taken into account and treated with the utmost respect. Posting photos from the conference room with participants' heads and faces on social media, an absolutely unprofessional thing, very damaging to our claim of confidentiality promise. Cool survey. Usually it's the work of those who work less and have lower professional standards. Awareness-raising education and the use of social media is very much needed, in my opinion. In my age group, which knew life before the Sinclair ZX81 and the BBC computer, I don't know if you know them, these are in the 80s computers, I researched them. Frankly, there is too much, we were all like kids. Frankly, there is too much, or not born, there is too much crap going around on social media, and I don't see that I wish to contribute to it. I think social media is an essential tool for communication, in particular as a translator and interpreter. Discretion is something you train for. It's a good idea to be present on the channels that your clients use regularly. I would love to read about the results, and she left her email, and surely we might send her the results. And I lied about my age. So that's the analysis of the survey, but there are some limitations which Hugo and Roman are going to talk about.
Sure. Some of the limitations that we found with our research, for the purposes of this presentation we conducted, we designed a relatively simple survey with clear questions that we hope would provide us with enough information for analysis for the purposes of this presentation. Someone left a comment, I believe, that they didn't have the option for the multiple choice they wanted, so maybe if we were to conduct a bigger piece of research, we would need to include more options, perhaps more questions, and that would help us to get more elaborate analysis. We also found that the comments were particularly useful, so perhaps to include more opportunities for people to express themselves in written form would be an advantage. And we thought that including a simple survey would mean that people would be more likely to respond. So that was part of why we didn't make a longer survey, since we live in a time where people use social media and their attention spans are particularly low. By the time they realized the survey was too long, they'd probably end up on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And that leads into Hugo's part, because we were not particularly happy with the percentage of different participants. As you saw, the 65% of participants were professionals, even though we sent out the survey to many students, which Hugo will mention to you in a little bit.
Yes, so throughout this wonderful year, there have been many ideas and concepts thrown around the room, buzzwords, and perhaps the buzzword of the Masters is none other than added value. You've instilled in us a sense of proactivity, and I know you care so much for this Masters, and we've got a sense of that as well, so we want to contribute, we want to bring something to the table, give our 2 pence, give our added value. Now, what the research has provided us with is that there is in fact a vast amount of young interpreters, new graduates, who are not aware of their breaches in confidentiality. Yet they're posting stuff online, left, right, and center. What can we do for this? Well, we've decided to launch a campaign, and we've decided to create a hashtag. And it's not only a hashtag, but it's also a hush tag. We were playing with the order of it, but seeing 1 and T is already established as the interpreter hashtag, we thought this would be a good idea. We've decided to launch a campaign with this hashtag, and we made a video for it. And we made a video for it because obviously our audience is those young people. So we want those young people to get involved. We want them to see the video. The video is dynamic, it's snappy, and you're going to see it in 1 second. Now, before we do that, I wanted to say that we got in touch with both CIOL and DAIC because we wanted to name them when we were talking about codes of conduct. Unfortunately, 3 weeks after I sent the emails, they still hadn't replied. So that's perhaps my only if with the video. Otherwise, we're very chuffed with it. Thank you very much.
Hello, we are 2 soon-to-be graduates in conference interpreting from the Metropolitan University in central London.
That's correct. Professionalism is a few exams away. And as professional interpreters, we will face a wide range of challenges, amongst which visibility and social media will be of utmost relevance.
Being a professional interpreter implies adhering to a code of conduct, therefore exercising a strict sense of confidentiality.
So, how do you go about tweeting, Facebooking, and generally getting yourself out there without breaching that confidentiality?
What is right? What is wrong? What are the do's? What are the don'ts? Is there a video somewhere on the internet you can direct me to?
Quite frankly, last time we looked online, there wasn't any. And this is why, along with our colleagues, we have decided to make one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you
Do's and don'ts. Conference interpreting confidentiality and the use of social media.
So, where do we start?
Let's assume you're a professional conference interpreter. You have an assignment at a pharmaceutical company event.
Do.
Get excited. Pharmaceutical company? Well done. However,
Don't.
Get overexcited and post a Facebook update, name-dropping the company that hired you.
Do.
contact your client and kindly ask for information to prepare glossaries and research terminology. But
Don't.
Upload this information into an unencrypted server or USB stick that you might lose.
by all means,
Don't.
Take a picture of your study environment where any of that information might be visible and post it on Instagram. On the day of the assignment,
Do.
arrive on time, but please
Don't.
check in or tweet or Instagram or Snapchat the venue where the conference is taking place.
you're in the booth. There are some technical difficulties with the equipment.
Do.
Use that time to take a breather. Research an unannounced speaker or take a look at your glossary, but
Don't.
Take a picture of it and post it on your Facebook feed.
big don't. The technical problems have resolved and the conference is running at full speed. You're doing a great job and suddenly you think about all those likes you could get on Instagram if you posted a video of yourself interpreting in the booth.
Don't.
Before lunch, a speaker with a challenging accent starts using technical terminology and your décollage falls behind. During the break, you decide to tweet hashtag Chinese delegate using highly concise pharmaceutical terminology killed me. Hashtag more coffee. Hashtag conference interpreting.
What about? What is the rate of coffee consumption in hashtag conference interpreting? Asking for a friend, hashtag one and tea. After the job, you'll go home and either lay on your couch, go to the gym, have a glass of wine and wait until your brain clicks back on.
You will then be tempted to make an album of photos and post it on your Facebook wall so all your friends can see what a great little conference interpreter you are.
Find a creative way to avoid a breach of confidentiality. Work your way around it.
Post a photo of your dog.
Write a poetic update.
Reference a song.
Post a link to an article.
Quote a line from a film.
Tell a joke.
Share a recipe.
Go shopping.
Do nothing.
And it goes without saying, but never ever post anything offensive or obscene. Can you think of any other do's and don'ts?
Confidentiality in the use of social media amongst conference interpreters is a relatively grey area, particularly because there is usually a lack of awareness, not to mention naive and carefree attitudes when observing the code of conduct.
If you're a linguist and you think this video is important, then let's keep this conversation going. Let's raise awareness and start thinking about what we do
and what we don't do online. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for watching.
That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any questions, Max?
You collected the results from the questionnaire.
Yeah.
Before producing the video. I mean, I'm just curious about what the process was like.
We worked together throughout. I had the concept for the video, so the idea was to incorporate aspects from the survey, and so it was a retroactive thing, since we all drafted the survey.
Okay.
So, still on this particular question, so what informed what? I'm not sure if you understand. So, did the video inform the survey, or did the survey inform the video?
Well, the survey definitely informed the video, but we thought about scenarios, and then obviously the survey gave us the data.
Yeah, it was concurrently progressing, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have an account? Do you tweet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And were you tweeting before you came to the course?
No.
So Twitter is fairly new, and it came with the course. And did the TP module influence you on deciding to tweet?
Yeah.
For me, yes, but Hugo
has been an old tweeter.
Yeah. But I was tweeting under my alias, which I've used. I've used an internet alias since the start of the internet, so to speak. But this year I decided to change it to my actual name and to make it more professional. So yeah, that was.
So as a result of the TP module, you've just adopted different kind of behaviors in a sense. So are you comfortable that you are visible on Twitter?
Yes.
I started.
You started to be, okay.
I changed my content to professionals only. I haven't switched, I haven't closed my personal, but gradually changing the content. Hopefully my earlier tweets won't be in the wrong path. But at some point I might open another one, but I'm exploring how I should do, how I should go about, but trying to keep the professional content.
So in your references, you mentioned, for example, the ITI conference. Do you see that you've been able to access this kind of information if you hadn't been on social media? Would you have been informed about it?
No, we noticed it online, and I'm hoping somebody will post the article about it online shortly. I haven't.
It was Google Plus.
Yeah, because there was a heated debate about social media and confidentiality during the ITI conference. And I followed the ITI conference on Twitter because I couldn't go. And so I was just wondering if you were aware of this.
Well, we knew there was going to be talk about it anyway. Bayan was very pushing with regards to putting the video out because, and I was kind of gutted because I thought this is great. This is such a zeitgeist moment to produce this, and she really wanted us to post it, but we said no. This is a presentation, part of the presentation. But we're very excited to actually put it out there and see what the reaction is because I think people are interested.
Yeah, and regarding the ITI tweet, I think we were busy with the exam. We're not focusing on extra information.
So if you go back to the hashtag of ITI17 and you just follow the debate, I think it would be very interesting for you to see what happened there, especially on the second day of the conference and in the follow-up of the conference. There's quite a lot of tweets about social media and confidentiality, and also there's quite a lot of talks about educating interpreters on how to use, Twitter. So I think your video would fit in really, really nicely. So that would be quite something to.
Yeah, we said we have to ask for permission first. What to say?
Well. Okay, let me have a look if I've got any other questions. I don't have any other questions. Do you?
No, same here. It's quite clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, where you were waiting, for us, you can use the space if you want to. We need about 10 minutes, and then we'll call you back for the feedback.
Thank you.